The work that I've seen here is as impressive as anywhere you'll find it, I believe, around the world. You know, I've said on many occasions I've never felt more proud to be an Australian, but I'm very proud of my home state too, I've got to say, Gladys. The leadership you've shown together with Brad and the whole team, but particularly the health professionals and workers here of New South Wales have done, I've got to say, I think, the best job in the world. And you know, you think about a city as sophisticated and as amazing as my home city is Sydney, and what Sydney in particular has been able to achieve over the course of this pandemic when you compare it to places like New York and London and Paris and so many of the great cities of the world. And I tell you what, Sydney shines on a bright day, as we all know, but it certainly has shined here during the course of this pandemic under your leadership, Gladys and Brad, and to all the amazing health workers that we have here in this state. So I thank you very much for that. And so we've seen that on display here again. We're ready to go. That's the clear message when it comes to rolling out this vaccine. We have been preparing, we have been planning, we have been dotting the I's, we have been crossing the T's. The best medical experts and professionals in the world have both signed off on these vaccines, so you can be confident. But then the best medical experts and professionals in the world have been designing the process and have been preparing for this process, and you've seen that just upstairs. They are ready to go. What particularly impressed me today when I saw this process is how sympathetic it is, how human it is. Yes, it's a jab, and yes, there's a lot of technology, and yes, there's a lot of science. But what I'm particularly pleased about is the care, the concern that is being demonstrated to Australians as they'll come through this process. I know for many, this may be a very anxious process, and I think the plans here have taken that into account to reassure, to calm, to encourage, to observe, to make sure everybody's okay. So it's just not about the health protection of the vaccine. It's the care that is being put into this and the care that is being provided to every Australian through the amazing processes and systems that have been built here, that are on display here. Now that'll be the case as we move from these initial phases with Pfizer and we moved into the AstraZeneca phase, and it'll go out more into GPs and ultimately pharmacists, and it'll get into remote communities and all of this. And so the care that has been put into the planning and the preparation, I'm seeing matched by the care that is being provided to each and every individual. So you can feel confident, you can feel safe, and you can bring your family. And I'm looking forward to those vaccinations starting very soon, as is, I know, the Premier and the other Premiers, because as she rightly says, as this program rolls out, it does change how we can ultimately manage this virus in this country. This does change it. And that's why it is our government's biggest priority, particularly now, as we prepare the country to engage in the vaccination process and to ensure that we can significantly reduce the risk of serious disease. That's what this is about. When Gladys and I sat around a table almost a year ago now, our biggest concern was serious illness and fatalities. I mean, transmissibility at that point was certainly an important topic of conversation, but what we were concerned about were those horrific scenes that we were seeing of people dying, some with ventilators, some without, in the most awful of conditions. This vaccination deals with that risk. Yep. And as a result, that changes how we can confidently go ahead managing the virus in Australia into the future. Still a long road. But again, I want to just thank everyone who's been involved in the meticulous health planning here. But the thing I've really got to thank them for most is the care that they're putting into this. The care. Now, one last thing I want to ask everybody to do. To support the vaccination process and the digital process that's associated with that, go to mygov.au today, particularly if you're in those early phases of the vaccination rollout. Please go on there, please update your details to ensure they're accurate, because that process actually is supporting the certification process for the vaccination more broadly. So it's a simple thing. Those who know that they're in that first wave, that's important. Of course, those who are elderly, we've got 240 facilities that are in towns right across the country, 190 locations around the country, which will be in that first wave of vaccinations. We're protecting our most vulnerable, protecting those who are working on the front line, protecting our health workers who have been working with this not just today, but for the full last year. And their courage and bravery will we all know.